Hello, Jacquie Edwards here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are talking about the difference between rent-to-rent HMO and rent-to-rent service accommodation, and really how to choose which one is right for you. Because first of all, I think you must choose. Now, I've seen people try to do both and get started with both and be like, oh, I don't care which I do, I'll take service accommodation or I'll take HMO. No, do not do that. They are different businesses. Now, the underlying rent-to-rent is the same for them, pretty much. But the management on the back end is very, very different. So if you want to do both of them, you are basically setting up two different businesses at the exact same time. Now, that's hard work. And I don't want you to do hard work. I don't want you to struggle. I want to make this as easy as possible for you. Also, if you're trying to do both of them, what are you going to say to agents? Like, you're going to go to this letting agency and be like, nah, I'm happy to look at anything. Yeah, I'm happy for a 1-bedroom flat or a 5-bedroom house, whatever your best deal is. Just show me everything. That letting agent is going to be like, does not compute. I can't put this into my system. I can't just put anything. I need to pick what you're looking for. And they're not going to call you back. They're going to be like, this person's a time waster. Not worth it. Yeah, you're on your own, buddy. So pick one and stick with it. Now, if you want in the future, so if, say you pick HMOs and you've been running your HMO business for 12 months and you're interested in starting up something new and your HMO business is like running smoothly, everything's systemized and happy, then you could totally try service accommodation. I've done both. That's what I did. I started an HMO business, got that up and running, and then I was like, hey, let's try out this service accommodation thing. Everybody says it's so cool. And I tried a little bit of that. Then I realized, this is hard work. It's a completely different business. Do I really want to have two different businesses at the moment? No. And I went back and stuck with HMOs. So I know what I'm talking about. Believe me when I tell you, just pick one and stick with it and then see where you're at in 12 to 18 months. All right, so now which one should you pick? Now, this is going to depend a little bit on when you're watching this video. So right now we are in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. So service accommodation is a bit tough right now. Just like every business in the hospitality industry, people aren't traveling, companies aren't sending their executives to different cities and different branches. So nobody's staying at service accommodation in hotels at the moment. Now, they are able to be used as kind of emergency accommodation for key workers and people that want to self-isolate. But usually most service accommodation operators aren't making a profit on these kind of key worker accommodation. So this is probably a really tricky time to be jumping into service accommodation. That's not to say it can't be done, but you want to make sure you're really getting a good deal. And that even if you can't find guests for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you're still going to be okay having this property on your books. So really think this through about, no matter where we are. So maybe it's like 3 years from now and you're watching this video and, really think about what the economy is like and what's happening in the world before you choose which strategy you want. Right now, HMOs, again, anything is going to be a little bit tricky now because there's such chaos and fear in the world. So tenants aren't moving as much. Some tenants are struggling to pay their rent because they're losing their jobs. But HMOs, I think, pretty much always going to be viable. People are always going to need more places, a place to live. There are still more people than there are houses in the UK. Not everybody can afford to live in their own house. They need to share a house. So I think HMOs are pretty much always viable. Again, you still want to make sure, is this a good deal? What if I can't find tenants to move in for, 3 weeks because we're on lockdown and nobody can do viewings? Is this still a good deal to take on? Or should I renegotiate with the landlord? So again, really think it through based on, what's happening in the world at this time that you're watching it and getting started. Otherwise, in normal times, let's talk about HMO versus service accommodation. First of all, you need to look at what's best in your area. Maybe you live somewhere like super rural and there's no HMOs anywhere else. HMO is probably not the right strategy for you. Now, maybe you could set up one, maybe 2 HMOs and find tenants for them, but now suddenly you're housing everybody in the village and it's just not scalable. So you won't be able to get multiple HMOs to get a big enough business to really make it worth it. So in that situation, maybe you'll want to look at more of a service accommodation model, maybe some holiday cottages, things like that. So really think about what's going to work in your area. Do people want to stay in service accommodation in your area? Are there businesses in this location that people will be visiting? Are there tourist attractions that people are coming to see? who's going to stay in your service accommodation if that's the route you want to go? Or maybe you're better off doing HMOs because you're in a super residential area and that's where people kind of want to live and they've got great transportation into work. So first is what works in your area. Next, you want to think about what will you enjoy doing? Because it's all super exciting in the beginning. Like you're scared, you're nervous, you're excited, everything's new, you're doing it all for the first time. But I promise you, after a few properties, it's going to be the same old thing over and over and over again. So you need to make sure at least you're interested in doing it. And now that might change years down the road, so it's perfectly fine. You don't have to do rent to rent forever, but make sure if you absolutely hate tenants and the idea of dealing with tenants, then you're probably going to want to go service accommodation and have guests that are only staying for a couple of days and then they move on. Whereas if you hate the thought of dealing with constant changeover of people and new people there all the time and you want to be able to build up a relationship with some long-term tenants, then maybe you need to stick with an HMO. So really think about your personality, your likes and dislikes, and what's going to work kind of for you personally and what you're going to enjoy, because you want to be able to enjoy your business. You don't want it to be something that you hate. Now, it is going to get boring. I know right now you can't see it as getting boring because everything's just so new and exciting, but I promise you, when that tenant calls again that the shower's broken, you're going to be like, oh my God, same thing over and over again. Yeah, we'll fix the shower. Oh yeah, the boiler's not working. Did you push this button? Oh yeah, you forgot to turn it on. Yeah, again. So really think about how are you going to be able to do this for the long term. Now, the final thing is management. The management for HMOs and service accommodation is quite different. Now, with HMOs, you've got those longer term tenants. So once they're in the property, it usually doesn't take as much management. There's not as much changeover. You're not constantly, finding new tenants and cleaning the house and getting it ready for new guests. Whereas with service accommodation, there's a lot more to do because the turnover is so high. You're constantly getting new guests in and you have to be cleaning and you have to really have things to a high standard. So you have to have a lot of systems and processes in place, and you have to make sure you're super, super organized. Now you have to be organized with your HMOs and you have to, know all the rules and all of that stuff, but it's just one more level higher of kind of business skills to manage a service accommodation business than it is to manage an HMO business. So it's just that little bit more time intensive and management intensive for a service accommodation business. So if you are super awesome at kind of systems and processes and you love keeping things organized, then maybe service accommodation could be a good route for you. If you really don't love that side of things and you're not quite as good at it, you either need to have a business partner that's awesome at it and then do service accommodation, or maybe just start with HMOs because again, they're just that little bit less management intensive. Sorry, you need management for both of them. It still takes time and effort, but service accommodation is just like one step higher of business than HMOs are, which again is why you don't want to do both of them at the same time, because you manage them differently. You need different teams, you need, different scheduling systems, you need different software, you need different management to manage them both. You need different paperwork to deal with them both. So set up one, pick which one works for you in your area with your personality and with your management style, basically. So those are kind of the key 3 things that you need to be thinking about when you're making that decision, HMO or service accommodation. And just whatever you do, don't do both of them at the same time from the very beginning. I want you to really, really promise me that you're not going to do this, because I see so many people do it and it just holds them back from building up their business. Everything just goes so much slower when you're trying to do everything and focus on everything and wanting whatever. Focus down, narrow down your focus, narrow down kind of your niche, pick which one you're going to do, and then get out there and get it done. I totally know you can do it. And yeah, I can't wait to hear what you've chosen. So thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.